And we are live. Hi, my name is Cyrus Simon.
Elijah Jones.
This is episode 36 of UFC MMA Renegade recapping UFC 256. The title says best fight card of the year. I believe so. I think we're going to talk about that in a second. But Elijah, how are you doing, sir?
I am good, sir. As you can see, I've picked my hair out, so I got a little bit of a fro going on this morning. I
You had the do-rag yesterday.
yeah, I had the do rag so they couldn't see it, but I'm definitely have a fro now. So here we are till I curl it again. But I'm good. It's a beautiful Sunday. It doesn't seem to be too cold, so I may go out later, may play basketball. Who knows? How are you today?
I'm doing good, man. Yesterday was hectic with everything that was going on with the fights and also work and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
but yesterday was a good night. It was
it
a good
was
night of
a
fights.
good night. I want to say this was a very exciting card because I knew it was going to be good, but I
Hmm.
was from start to finish. I was like, oh shit, this is not bad. This
No,
is starting to be some really good. These are really good matchups. These are really good fights. I mean, that's all, I don't know. I was excited. Last night was really good for me.
and sidebar, it kicked off before the UFC event. It kicked off with Anthony Joshua versus Pulev,
Yeah,
Pulev on
yeah,
on DAZN.
yeah.
Which was
Anthony Joshua was able to finish him, right?
yeah. So it sets up the Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua fight that we're all waiting for next year. But it started with that, and then it's rolled into UFC 256, and from there, we just had action packed fight after action packed fight after action packed fight, all the way really up to the main event, and then the main event exceeded expectations that we even thought were going to be. So.
Yeah,
It definitely was definitely was a really really good night of fights, a good day of fights actually.
great
Um,
day of fights.
but before we
Great.
start, just want to say, if you want to talk about the show, please comment in the live chat. Tell us what you think of the show. Tell us what you think of UFC 256, and subscribe and share.
Subscribe and share, and please, 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 please tell us thoughts, opinions, anything that you think would help us or make us better in the future. Because again, we're making this stuff for not only us but for the fans as well.
Most definitely, most definitely. All right, Elijah, this is what you do.
Let me just go ahead and just gonna.
By the way, Flathead Politics commented on our prediction show yesterday. He said I did a
Mhm.
really good job. So I'm not too bad at checking your job, man.
Wait, what did he say? I'm sorry.
He said I did a good job with your intro.
You did. You did a good job. It's
Yeah,
listen. You can the way I see it, you can only get better. You can
yeah.
really only get better. But last night, UFC put on one another yet performance of the year, a UFC event card that we did not know was going to be great. The phenomenal, the amazing UFC 256 is in the books, taking place at the UFC Apex Arena. Of course, with no fans in attendance due to the COVID-related pandemic going on, we still was able to see a phenomenal fight for UFC 256 with the headline of Davison Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno for the flyweight belt, the 125 belt. And in our co-main event, we had none other than Tony El Kakui Ferguson versus Charles Du Bronx Oliveira. Tyreece, let's go ahead and get started with that co-main event.
Yeah, so we talked before the show and we said, okay, what do you want to start? We want to start with the main event or co-main event? And you said,
I mean,
well, Tony's a little bit shorter. We've just got and I said, yeah, let's start with the downer first. Yeah, so we did a prediction show yesterday. And I encourage you to go watch it and tell us what you think of the prediction, whether we're spot or not.
yeah,
I thought the main event was pretty spot on, by the way.
for sure, for sure. I thought we
Um,
were able to. I thought we talked well about it.
Yeah, I thought pretty much everything or almost everything that happened in the main event we kind of saw in the fight itself, especially the ground situation.
Yeah,
Um, but the co-main event, I was confident, not confident, but I was sure of myself
in the
to
choice of
to a, to a degree about Tony Ferguson beating Charles Oliveira, and I even said by TKO in the second round. You
yeah,
said decision,
yeah,
um, and I said that because of history. I said that because of just who Tony Ferguson is, and I didn't want to attribute his last fight to what we can see going forward.
yeah,
Having said that, I think you can look at stats, you can look at history, you can look at everything, but the biggest key factor is just the mental state and also the physical state. And I think last night showed that Tony Ferguson still has all the skills in the world, still is an incredible athlete,
Yes.
but I think Father Time has touched Tony Ferguson on the shoulder and told him it's getting closer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
don't disagree. I think the Tony we saw was the same Tony. He switched in, switch in, but it just didn't seem like the go button or the gas was pushed
mm,
in a weird way. Right? We got the stance switches, we got the kicks, we got the jabs. He was able to get moves, but it just seemed like there was nothing that he did that was really like, whoa, like Tony's got this.
yeah, and like the movements to me were a little bit slower.
Yeah.
The explosiveness was a little bit slower. The um like I said, the go button, like when I see Tony Ferguson in the past, you know, it doesn't seem to me like he's thinking about his next move.
Yeah. This thing.
He's not overthinking. He's not thinking about what steps he's gonna do, what he's gonna throw next. He's just throwing and it just comes fluid.
Mhm.
This Tony Ferguson, it was a lot of
Timidness.
waiting. It was a lot of timidness. It was a lot of caution. It was a lot of and Charles Oliveira. We're going to talk about Charles Oliveira in a second, but
Next, yeah.
it was Tony Ferguson kind of like he was second guessing everything that he was doing and kind of it seemed like he was off, like really
Yeah.
off. Um, and it just seems like okay, something's off here, and as you see the fight go on, like things that Ferguson used to be able to do with ease, quick,
Yeah.
fluid, a lot slower, a lot
It
slower.
it just didn't seem what was interesting to me is when the first round when it first started off and that I noticed the size difference
Mm,
between Tony and Charles Oliveira, and it looks like Charles Oliveira has found a very good size in this 155 division. He was always a skinny guy and tall guy for 145, but it seemed like he seemed to be the more fuller fighter. And I had wondered if that the strength was going to be a factor in this fight, right? Because we know Tony is good on the ground, these exchanges, but I was thinking like, well, what if he just holds Tony? What if he gets him in these weird positions? What happens then? But
mhm.
I mean, it looks like Charles Oliveira. He did what we always said. He did what we said what he would do during the pre-fight show, right? Walk
Mm,
forward, put the pressure on, jab, try to put combinations together, things like that. But
right.
what I didn't expect was the takedowns.
Yeah.
What I
Yeah.
didn't expect was because we talked about this, the jujitsu is going to cancel each other out. But in fact, it seemed to be, in terms of grappling, it seemed to be more wrestling favored on Charles Oliveira's side. And it seemed that in these exchanges, Tony, he held on. He survived, right?
Right.
Tony survived. And we're used to seeing Tony attack, do things. And again, these weren't positions where he could obviously throw an offense and things like that. But what we saw was Tony surviving for maybe just 2 rounds straight. Because I think at one point, Charles Oliveira had 6 minutes of control time, starting from
Yes.
like the end of round one to like in round two and stuff like that. So it just was interesting to really see that. And again, I agree. Like Tony, I don't know if this is a mental aspect or anything like that, or maybe this just wasn't his night. But it just seemed that Tony, the El Kukui, the Nightmare, the whoever you want to call him, the Boogeyman.
Mm.
It seems like either Father Time's catching up with him, or that loss that Gaethje really put him in a dark place.
Yeah, and so if you're watching, please tell us what you think of Tony Ferguson versus Charles Oliveira. See, it's interesting you brought up the size. 'Cause I thought Tony Ferguson would be bigger into the fight. I thought he would be a lot bigger just because of the weight he carries.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, it seemed like Charles Oliveira was baby brothering Tony Ferguson all night.
yeah,
Uh, I, the thing about Tony Ferguson as well is like even with the grappling, right?
hmm
Okay, I could understand Charles Oliveira taking Tony Ferguson to the ground. Like Kevin Lee took him down to the ground. Tony Ferguson can be taken down to the ground.
yeah,
The thing was off his back, what he can do. What he can do off his back, what can he attempt, and it'll make it hard and difficult for you to try anything or do anything.
yeah,
And to a degree, that was right in this case where Charles Oliveira wasn't able to land significant shots really on the ground, and he was able to survive, like you said.
No, it wasn't.
He was able to. We say Tony Ferguson was able to survive.
No, I'm sorry. You cut out for a little bit. I think all I heard was the part that you said that he was able, that he was trying to survive or able to survive.
Yes,
Say it
yes. I
again.
was saying he was trying. I think he was just trying to survive.
That was it. He
Yeah,
had this he had this position, right, where it was like almost north south, right? But of course Charles Oliveira was on his knees and Antonio Ferguson was under him in the north south time position. A flat politics, fellas. B plus for the night. I had Charles in the Ferguson fight. It's a very smart pick. That was a very good pick.
good pick
I
actually.
don't I it's a very I don't see any fault in that. I think that fight was a lot closer than we thought, but in reality, it seemed to be actually a lot farther than we really anticipated.
Mm,
But there was a position where he almost looked like he had it like a reverse triangle in a weird way, but he was holding on to the back of his leg. And there
right.
was one position there. And then the up kick. The up kick was one of the interesting parts of that fight as well, because
Mm,
Charles Oliveira had Tony stacked, and Tony couldn't see that Charles Oliveira was actually kneeing. But from his if he had looked on the left side, he would see that Charles Oliveira's leg was up, but he didn't see that the right knee was down, and it just was like a bad angle. And I thought that was like, dang, like that sucks.
right.
Good thing they didn't stop the fight though, because that was unintentional completely. I
Right.
hope it was at least, but it was an interesting fight, and again, it looked like Tony was just really trying to survive. That's really it.
Yeah, and even in the stand up where I thought Tony Ferguson, we talked about it in the prediction show. We thought about Tony Ferguson having the advantage on the stand up.
Yeah,
With Tony Ferguson being slower on the draw and being slower to move, and like Charles Oliveira had a better night standing up with Tony Ferguson than Tony Ferguson does. Like, so when we look at Tony Ferguson's history, Tony Ferguson outclasses or outperforms or pace his opponents.
all his opponents. And that was the only fight that didn't happen. It was the Justin Gaethje fight, right? And then we look at all the fights: Josh Thompson, Edson Barboza,
But even
Lando
Justin,
Venata,
but even Justin Gaethje got hurt. Like even Justin
yeah,
Gaethje, like the first
the
two
uppercut,
rounds, yeah,
the uppercut in the second round.
the first two rounds, it was like, okay, this is a close fight. You know, we even said towards the end of the fight, if Tony Ferguson can land or put a combination together, it could be problems for Justin Gaethje. This one, there was never a doubt. There was never a doubt in anybody's mind that Charles Oliveira was not going to defeat Tony Ferguson on a stand-up. As the fight progressed, it was just like, yeah, there's something off. There's something
Yeah,
like the pace, the movements,
it didn't click.
no, nothing clicked.
That switch, I guess, didn't turn on or something. I don't know, because it seemed as if Oliveira was just he's walked him down, just
Right.
continuously walked him down. And don't get me wrong, the first round he did him some good shots, but it just didn't phase him.
Yeah.
Didn't phase him. This guy, Charles Oliveira, he's a beast at 155. This man's he's honed in. He's locked in on getting that title. And I think with maybe 2 fights, one more fight with the right person, he's there.
Okay, before we get to Charles Oliveira, let's stick with Tony for 1 second.
Yeah. Good.
Tony Ferguson, right? I'm trying to put this in the best of ways. What does Tony Ferguson go from here? Because he's lost 2 in a row. He's still very, really good. But if this trend that we're seeing from Tony Ferguson, he's getting older too. I think he's like 30. He's going to be 37, 36, about to be 37. What do we go with Tony Ferguson from here?
Well, I want to also bring up one interesting thing about the media. I don't know if you saw this, but he was talking to me how they like kiss ass about Conor McGregor's whiskey, and that they don't advocate for him getting a title shot, things like that. And I thought that was pretty interesting narrative, because on one side, I agree with this man, right? This man won 12 straight fights, like he should have been fighting for the title, but it never happened. And when he fought for the title, fell through with Khabib. Then he fought Gaethje, an opponent he didn't prepare for, so he lost. It's just his potential title reign would have been interesting if he had actually gotten the chance to fight for the belt. But if I'm Tony's team, we take some time off. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm getting ready to counter your point, but go ahead.
My point with what? Taking some time off?
No, with Tony Ferguson.
No, I was just bringing that up.
Okay, so I heard the narrative that Tony Ferguson had won 12 fights in a row, and that it's blasphemy that he never got a title shot. The thing about Tony Ferguson was Tony Ferguson built, and this is part of his story. Tony Ferguson built his way up from the Ultimate Fighter, right? And en route to him getting to 12 wins, stuff like that, he had opportunities. Like he had opportunities with Kevin Lee. And then it's just circumstances and things happened in Tony Ferguson's career, whether it's injury, whether it's fights falling through, whether it's him not taking fights, or him like certain things happened in his career that it didn't trajectorize himself to a lightweight title
It
fight,
didn't put him. It
an
just didn't.
undisputed title fight.
It didn't put him in the position. I agree. I'm not arguing whether or not it's right or wrong, but that was the narrative that he had spoke about with the media before the fight. Was
Right.
that how they had tended to be more like kind of kissing ass and things like that. I was reading it on MMA Mania. I could be, maybe I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what the article summarized, was that he was saying that they don't advocate for him actually getting a title shot.
No, you're right. I believe that is almost verbatim of what the media scrum was.
Yeah, right. That's what I thought. I
thought
that was interesting.
It is interesting, but like that mentality of, I should have been owed this, and that's, it's justified, because he has a right to feel that way. Mm-hmm. But in reality, Tony Ferguson, his career just didn't pan out to be in line. Like we talked about Khabib Nurmagomedov, that fight's supposed to happen at least 4 or 5 times, and
five times. And
it just fall through either by his side or Khabib's side.
Yeah,
like Tony Ferguson's career is just gonna like if he was to retire today, it would be wrong place, wrong time. Wrong place, wrong time. If he would have maybe came in a little bit younger, maybe some of the fights happened when it was supposed to happen, like Khabib Nurmagomedov, then we'll be talking about Tony Ferguson possibly being a UFC undisputed champion.
Yeah.
We only talk about Tony Ferguson being what could have been, or I still consider him a champion. I consider interim champion.
He's top 5. He's top 5 in my opinion. Always will be.
So I now it comes to this question of where does Tony Ferguson go from here? I think if you really want to, I think this is actually a good idea. Gives Tony Ferguson an up and comer lightweight in the division. Don't give him a veteran. Don't give him Ally Quinta. Don't give him Kevin Lee. Don't give him somebody that's up and coming. Give him somebody like you talk about him, Diego Ferreira. Give him Drew Dober. Like give him somebody that's
Drew Dober's booked. Drew Dober's booked already.
Right, but like depending on what happens in that fight, Beneil Dariush, you like Beneil Dariush.
That's a good fight. That's a good fight. Those are good guys to fight.
I want to see somebody that is coming up fight Tony Ferguson and see if Tony Ferguson is still that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like now, like that'll be the ultimate test of Tony Ferguson to see, okay, is Father Time really tapped you on the shoulder and said, okay, it's time, or is there still that fire left in you?
Yeah.
So that's what I want to see from Tony Ferguson.
I'll say this: I would like to see him take a little more time off and then get in a fight maybe around February, March. Come back, new in the year. We'll see.
37.
How do you feel about Charles? 37? Yeah, he'll be 37. Flathead Politics says Oliveira is a problem in that division. Give Charles the belt now. No title fight needed. I think Charles Oliveira is making a very strong contention for the belt. There's a lot of interesting matchups with Charles Oliveira, right? But if I'm Charles Oliveira's team, I want him to take the quickest route to the belt, not just taking the top 5 to any of the top 5 guys. I want him to take the quickest route. So for me, a fight, there's no lightweight champion, right? And in the UFC rankings, who's number 1, Tyreece?
Number 1 would be Justin Gaethje.
Justin Gaethje, right? There's a potential fight against Justin Poirier.
3. 3 is Tony Ferguson. 4 is Conor McGregor.
So Tony will most likely drop down, right? Conor will probably go to 3. Everyone will move up. Hooker to 4. I want to see an interesting fight, like maybe Charles Oliveira versus. I don't think this will happen. These are possible matchups. We have Dan Hooker, who hasn't been, he doesn't have a fight just yet. We have Michael Chandler, Justin Gaethje. Any of those 3 guys would be a very big statement in the lightweight division right now, in my opinion. The number 1 obviously would be Gaethje because he's just coming off a championship fight with Khabib. But any one of those 3 guys, I can see a matchup with UFC trying to make that as soon as possible.
Yeah, with Charles, I'm keeping this thing. We want to address this exact question here, this exact statement here. With Charles Oliveira, I think he improved greatly, just from where he was, at a featherweight to now being a lightweight. Now, feel like he's coming into his own. I referenced in the prediction show the Anthony Pettis fight, and just look at the difference between there and now. But I think with Charles Oliveira, I think he's still 2 fights away. Like I don't think a title fight is going to come this easy where he's going to be like just being Tony Ferguson is going to be an immediate title shot. because we've seen Justin Gaethje beat him.
Yeah.
And now we start to question whether Tony Ferguson is on decline as well. Not to take away from Charles Oliveira, but I think Charles Oliveira has a well-rounded skill set now. Maybe he's still got to be tested on the feet a little bit because, again, Tony Ferguson, like, he was slower on the draw. But I think, go ahead.
No, I think that's what I'm saying. I think he needs, and those three guys I mentioned present any numerous amount of problems on the feet. The issue with the Hooker is that Hooker has the reach advantage over him.
Yeah.
And Hooker can tend to wrestle. Now, the issue would be for Hooker is the fact of him getting submitted. Fly Apology says Oliveira smashes Gaethje and Heyman Hooker. I don't agree with those. I don't agree with those. And let me tell you,
don't go that far.
Let me tell you why. With Dan Hooker is someone who bumped up from 145 to 155 and found a big home as a big lightweight. There's not too many people who can deal with him on the feet alone. Then when you mix in the wrestling and the feints and things like that from City Kickboxing, there's many factors that I think don't work out for Charles Oliveira in that fight. And then the Gaethje fight, I think Gaethje is just Gaethje. The thing about Gaethje is he pushes his opponents to try to match him. That means he needs his opponents to match the kind of willing to die on the shield as much as he is. The only person you haven't seen that with was Khabib, but everybody else has to match that. And I think those guys right now are better than Oliveira, in my opinion. You could correct me if I'm wrong, Tyreece.
No, I think you're right, and I think Charles Oliveira. Let's not get too crazy now with Charles Oliveira. Like, there's still some things in Charles Oliveira which I say, okay, depending on the fight, it could go either way. And I think Charles Oliveira is not somebody that deserves or needs to get a top 5 opponent right now. I think what's going to happen with the lightweight division is, we got to figure out what's going to happen with Khabib. We got to figure it out, though. We got to figure out what's going to happen with Khabib, right? So we're getting Conor versus Dustin Poirier in January.
Yep.
I think what may happen is you may get Chandler versus Justin Gaethje next.
Yep.
The winner of that possibly fights for an interim title or for the lightweight title.
Fight for the lightweight title because there's not going to be just for Dustin and Conor is not for a title, so it's an exhibition fight.
I know, but the thing about it is Khabib. They're trying to get Khabib to come back. Khabib has been adamant about he does not want to fight. Dana White wants Khabib to fight again. Again, we said this about this with Amanda Nunes. Amanda Nunes wanted to retire, and now she's being pulled back in. So it's not out of the realm possibility that Khabib Nurmagomedov is not going to come back to fight again.
No, but it's slimmer than it is with Amanda than it is with. Sorry, it's slimmer with Khabib than it is with Amanda.
How so?
Well, Khabib has gone on TV to say, well, he talked to his mom and he said without his father, he doesn't want to fight. His mom expressed that without his father, she doesn't really want him to fight. He said, okay. He's verbatim said that he's not going to fight anymore. I think that alone may be a reason for them to actually either he's going to vacate the belt at some point, right before probably the Conor fight, and then right then and there you're going to have that set up. With Amanda, she retired because there really wasn't much. There wasn't anyone else for her to fight at the moment. But with now you have her with a fight that actually got called off. But who was the 145er?
Megan Anderson.
Yeah, Megan Anderson. With that fight pot on the rise at 145, she's taken that. Those tend to be two different circumstances of why they're retiring, in my opinion. But you could think otherwise. But those are two different reasons as to why they're retiring.
Yeah, with Amanda Nunes though, I think she didn't want to fight anymore. Like she was done. Who else done. Did she fight? Who else is she? Sans who's left to fight. I think she was just done. I think she like you look at Amanda Nunes now on social media. She's having a very good time. I'm happy to see Amanda Nunes having a good time. Being a mother and being in that part of her life now. I think like that's what she's more focused on. I don't think she's focused on fighting, which again we'll talk about when Amanda Nunes fights again. But for Khabib has changed his tune to where before it was I'm not fighting anymore because of my mother and I don't want to fight when I'm a father there, to now being, well, if my mother gives me permission, then I'll fight again. Right, so like it's changing now to where Dana White could negotiate and talk his way to Khabib to try to pull him into a fight. That's what I'm saying. So that's why the lightweight division is kind of cloudy because we're still waiting for Khabib to see what happens next.
Agreed.
So with Chandler or Justin Gaethje, I think it's going to happen. I say for Charles Oliveira, I believe a fight with RDA makes a whole lot of sense. Charlo Oliveira. I mean, Charlo Oliveira versus RDA makes a whole lot of sense. Why? Because RDA is coming off the win of Paul Felder. Paul Felder beat Charles Oliveira, and I still think Charles Oliveira needs to pick up a, one or two, a solid one or two wins before he gets the number one contender shot.
I think one win would be if he somehow fought Gaethje or Hooker. That would be it. That would really be the one fight. The two fight is the more likely scenario where he fights an RDA, then the winner of Gaethje, whoever. Then that's the title fights next. I realistically see the winner of him either getting the loser of Gaethje versus Chandler fighting the loser of Conor versus Poirier, and then somehow after fighting RDA, the winner of the loser of the actual title belt is a person who Oliveira fights, and then that's how Oliveira gets to the belt. That's how I see it working, but who knows?
Yeah, like Flat Flat says, remember my picks, fellas. If these fights come to fruition, listen, I think with Charles Oliveira, we have to put the pause button on a little bit because again, I thought with Kevin Lee, he was getting pieced up if Kevin Lee went for the guillotine. Went for the takedown, got caught with the guillotine. Tony Ferguson, I believe there is a question mark on Tony Ferguson for sure. I want to see Charles Oliveira against a guy like Rafael Dos Anjos, where Rafael Dos Anjos seems rejuvenated at lightweight. He would be the bigger guy at lightweight. He is just as good standing up as he is at grappling with Charles Oliveira. They match up pretty well against each other. Charles Oliveira may have the height advantage.
But that's a good fight.
That is a good. If you want a test for Charles Oliveira to see if he is ready to make that leap toward a championship fight, that is the test. That is the test. Somebody that is just as well-rounded as he is, that is a former champion, and also have it go 5 rounds.
Yeah.
That's also a big thing. Before you talk about him getting a title shot, have him fight another 5-round fight.
It's an interesting card. I'm sorry, that was a good fight, good setup. I'm interested to see where Oliveira goes, and I'm interested to see what happens with Tony's career now. Moving on to the main event of the evening. Brandon Moreno versus
the best flyweight title fight. Well, flyweight fight of all time.
One of the best fights of the year, in my opinion. One of the best fights of the year. We got interesting cards all around. That's without a doubt one of the top 10 fights of the year for me, at least.
No, I think you're right.
It's it was good. It was the analysis that we gave of the fight presented in each of those rounds. Starting from round 1 to round 5. Of course, as you guys know, it was a majority draw, which means that Figueiredo retains the belt. Overall, I just want to say this: I feel like this is getting run back. Yes. Whenever we see a draw in a championship fight, we automatically know generally it's getting run back. So I'm looking forward to that. But who would you like to start with, Figueiredo or Moreno?
Let's start with Moreno.
Moreno got fucking heart.
Yes, which we knew.
We knew guy took some heavy shots. I think if the shots didn't sound as loud when he got hit, I don't think Figueiredo would have been winning some rounds, and that's because although the shots sounded big, it seemed that Moreno was landing more often, and those are the biggest thing. I think the strengths that we talked about, or at least I attested to before we during the pre-show, was that Moreno had the hand speed, he had great grappling, he wouldn't make those same mistakes in terms of grappling, and that he could take the shots that Figueiredo hit him with, and that lasted out throughout the fight. From round 1 to round 5, we saw him take some crazy heavy shots that would have put most people down. I think what I was most impressed about was during round 3 and 4 when Moreno started getting more comfortable in timing and swaying and rolling with punches that and slipping punches that Figueiredo was doing. I think Moreno again is a problem for anyone at that division, and if they run that back, I feel like Moreno could get it done. How did you feel about Moreno's performance?
I feel that everything that we talked about in the prediction show pretty much came to fruition in the main event. I thought that we talked about how Brandon Moreno has the higher output than Figueiredo. We said that I believe we said that the knockout power of Figueiredo is going to be an issue where if Figueiredo can take those shots, what was going to happen? Also, that Figueiredo has that stopping power to stop Moreno in his tracks. We said the grapplers going to cancel each other out, I believe. Like, there was a lot of things that we talked about that pretty much happened in this fight. And I thought with Moreno, I thought he did everything he was supposed to do. Everything he was supposed to do. And he is probably, right now, the only person in the flyweight division that can give Figueiredo some problems or give Figueiredo some issues. I think his story is amazing, coming from, tough to, being out of the UFC.
I think he was the last pick or one of the last few picks for Tough.
Yeah. And then
gets
cut. Even before that, his entire fighting style of, he's just going to grapple heavy. He didn't really have any striking or he wasn't as confident in the striking getting cut to then back up even further a little bit, but not. He fights fights Sergio Pettis, I believe, in Mexico. Loses that fight, which was supposed to be the big fight to again propel him further. Loses that fight. Sooner than later, he gets cut. He comes back, and now he's one of the best flyweights in the division. Like his story of just ups and downs, redemption. Brandon Moreno had a great story.
Embodiment of redemption.
Yes, and I think he was on the cusp of being the flyweight champion if it wasn't for Deiveson Figueiredo.
I think it's not impossible for him to be champion with Figueiredo in the picture. I think what last night showed was that both these men have heart. One, Figueiredo went the full 5 rounds, which is something we were wondering could he do. And we saw him get tired, but that last round he picked it up and he dug deep that last round. Not much was happened, but the way that the round ended with him landing an actual judo throw was phenomenal because after you get pieced up by a guy like that, you gotta wonder what's left. And Figueiredo is a dog, and Moreno is even more of a dog, right? We talk about the redemption story. Moreno, again, like one of the lower seeds of the Tough series, fights in UFC, doesn't do great, gets cut, wins a championship, comes back to UFC, goes on a complete tear, has one draw, I think, in his career back in UFC, and then goes on to just win. I mean, it's not too early to say he won't be champ, in my opinion. It's not too early. I think. Good.
No, I want to cut you off.
I just don't. I think he can be champ. I still think he can beat Figueiredo. I just think now in the rematch is who makes the better adjustments. So you guys are coming in with the same tools, the same game plan. Who makes the better adjustments? And I think that work is going to be done from Moreno because Moreno's only gotten better throughout his career. Figueiredo, this is the first time he had to dig deep, so I wonder how he comes in the next fight. He'll probably come in the same, throw bombs, throw one shot, things like that. But Moreno knows he can hang with this guy, so I think the second fight may end up going Moreno's way.
Okay. I don't want to cut you off there. I wanted to make sure that point came across because I think clearly the opposite. I think that what I was saying was Moreno would be champion if Figueiredo wasn't there, and I think that still stands. I think Figueiredo is the one opposition that Moreno, I don't think he can't conquer. At least for right now. Now we could switch to Figueiredo. I thought Figueiredo impressed a lot of people yesterday. I think more so than any other fight in his career, when he got knocked out in the first round. I think it was Figueiredo's heart and the Figueiredo's ability. Again, he was tired. No matter what you want to say, he was tired in the fight. But he was still throwing power. He was leaving himself open to shots, but he was still throwing with power, still throwing like he was in the first round. So the power of Figueiredo and the explosiveness of Figueiredo does not disappear. Maybe the defensive lapse or the amount thrown is a little bit off, but he still has that power in him.
You get tired in a fight. You sign up for a fight, you get tired. That's just it. You don't fight 25 minutes without getting tired. I don't care how big you are. I don't care how small you are. There's just no way.
At that high of a pace, too. At that high of a pace, you can't sit there and tell me that he's not tired, that he's still throwing with power or something. Yes, he is tired, but he still has the explosiveness in him to keep throwing.
His power, what was interesting was the power that was in round 1 was there in round 5.
Right.
And I was impressed by that because I didn't know if he was going to be one of those fighters who once they lost their steam, how
Right.
they were able to do things. When we
The
look at the
defense,
fight,
the defense was what told me he was tired. The
yeah, the
defense of
defense.
I'm lunging for shots. I'm getting caught with hooks. I'm getting caught off balance. Like that tells me he's tired.
What's more impressive though was the sequence in round 4 when Moreno hurt him. He didn't. You know when you get knocked down, he
Mm,
wasn't knocked down. He wasn't knocked down at all. If you think about it, right? The sequence when Moreno I think caught him with a hook and he gets knocked and Moreno like kind of sidesteps and just piecing him up.
mm,
He looks like he's about to fall straight on his face, but then he pushes like he like kind of stops himself and then he like and it looks like he kind of fakes it and then Moreno tries to go after him and then they both fall down. It's like but they go up quick. It's just like a weird sequence. It's like wow, this guy after getting pieced up like that still has it in him. I was more impressed by the spirit of Figueiredo, right? Because
mm,
up until now I've never seen him I've never seen the man struggle.
mm.
Right? You don't. This is like one of those moments where it's like you saw John Jones struggle in the Gustafsson fight, right? He
Right.
just couldn't answer for 3 rounds straight. For 3 rounds straight, he had no answer. And then in the last 2 rounds, pulls it out of God knows where, right?
Mm,
Figueiredo, for the first time, I think, has been tested.
mm.
And the thing is, if Figueiredo is already good, I am scared to see how good he will eventually get from being
Right.
tested. Now, the
Right.
issue is he's not going to have them. He's not going to have another Brandon Moreno in his career, in my opinion. I don't see it in UFC right now. Maybe I'm gonna be wrong in the future, and I really hope I'm wrong, but there's not gonna be another person like Brandon Moreno who's gonna push him to that level, in
Man,
my opinion. And that I agree with you saying like because you were like, oh, like Moreno's like it's just a hump he may not get over. I agree with that to some aspect, but I think Moreno can just I think there's something about Moreno that's special. I don't know what it is. And then Figueiredo's special too. And I wasn't upset with the way the fight ended because
mm.
those two really went at it. But if we look at it, if he didn't lose that point, Figueiredo would have won that fight by unanimous decision.
No, no, he wouldn't. He wouldn't
That's
have.
what that's what
He wouldn't have. So the how the scoring was the 10-8 fight. Um, that helped Moreno get it to a draw because
yeah, 10-8 round. I'm
Figueiredo
sorry. I didn't see that. I didn't see the drawing. I didn't see the judges go. Someone gave him a 10-8?
Moreno, yes, I believe I believe he got a 10-8 round for round 3 or 2.
Let me
I
you
believe
go.
round
Sorry.
when
I take my statement back.
the low blow shot for Moreno, I think gave him a 10-8 round because I think he won that round and gave a 10-8. The
Keep going. I'm sorry. I take my what I
no
said
yeah
back then. I thought,
no
yeah,
yeah
I thought
but Figueiredo, besides that, Figueiredo won round 1, round 2, and round 5.
yeah.
And the only reason why the decision didn't go to Figueiredo even with the draw, even with the 10-8 round, was because somebody gave Moreno the 5th round.
Which is interesting. No, that's what I'm saying. Sorry, I said without if that point didn't get dropped, Figueiredo would. Did I say Moreno would have won or Figueiredo would have won?
Moreno, I thought you said Moreno.
I thought. I'm sorry. I could apologize. I don't know. We talk a lot.
Yeah.
I meant to say Figueiredo would have won.
Okay.
Figueiredo
Okay.
would have won that. I'm pretty sure I said Figueiredo would have won that by unanimous. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. We're not going to go back and check it. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Retracting. I'm agreeing with you. Figueiredo would have won if he didn't get that point taken away by unanimous decision.
Yeah, I thought Figueiredo won even with the low blow. I thought he won.
Yeah.
I was surprised by the draw because the 5th round to me was telling where Figueiredo was loading up on Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno didn't have an answer because of his shoulder. And I thought that was a clear round for Figueiredo. I thought he won round 1, round 2, and then round 3 and 4 you could have given it to Brandon Moreno. But somebody gave Moreno the 5th round, which made it a draw.
I think if Moreno had been slightly more active or at least locked him up against the cage, he would have had that round. But
I don't think he had
the shots that I just exactly right. I just don't know if that I think he was hurt. He was really hurt by the last part.
Yeah.
But when we look at the shots that were thrown, the body kicks that were thrown actually landed on his forearm. And I think that's where a lot of the issues were. His shoulder had a big issue. His right eye was swelling up. There's a lot of confounding factors. So I think that round was a survive round, in my opinion, which is not bad. Which is not bad at all. Because if you looked at the stats of that last round, there wasn't that many thrown shots on either side. But that for me, that takedown is what really decided that fight. That's what really like. I mean, Figueiredo was pushing forward, hitting him.
Mm.
Yeah, like he caught him here and there, but it wasn't enough to be like, oh, like yeah, he's clearly winning. Just the pressure probably well, most justice saw was like, all right, he's winning round. But the takedown was really like, wow, like he like these guys have nothing left. Like they threw
Right.
everything they had at each other, and then he was still able to do that because Moreno didn't have anything to answer. You know, he didn't answer anything in the 5th round. Figueiredo didn't throw a lot, but he threw. You know, he threw. He just
Just
threw.
enough. Just enough.
Yeah,
And
like it was just go,
right. And
just that.
I thought the interesting thing was Figueiredo's kick, the kick that you were talking about hurt the arm. It was the
Yeah,
other arm. Like he kicked I believe the left arm or the right arm, and it hurt the other arm. Like that,
I know.
he kept grabbing the other shoulder. And now because
Yeah,
the kick, the power of the kick from the other side hurt his other shoulder.
it just he's so strong. What was interesting when he Moreno forced him to go to southpaw in order to throw those kicks because he was piecing him up with the jab. I was like,
Yeah, yeah. Like with Figueiredo, I believe he has the power. He has the heart. We see clearly he has the heart in this fight.
he has a heart. He has the heart. That's not
He
that's
has the
non-negotiable.
cardio. He has the cardio. Even though again, there's some things maybe he could work on in training of just in these later rounds, keeping the defense up. Because there was moments where he made it easy for Brandon Moreno to land counters on him. I think he has all the tools to be a champion for a very, very long time. And I think
Agreed.
because of that, I think he is going to be Brandon Moreno's kryptonite because Brandon Moreno, other than striking, what he likes to do, he excels on the ground. If you can't hold Figueiredo on the ground, you can't land a submission or land have control on them, then you're stuck standing up with them. And if you can get the same result in from this fight, then in the next fight is if Moreno can't keep or can't take Figueiredo down and hold them or try to work from there, it makes it a stand-up fight where Figueiredo's always going to have that power. It's not going to leave. It's going to stay there. And if he could work on the defensive lapse that he had in round 3 and 4, it's going to be even worse for Moreno going forward. So that's why I say Moreno's kryptonite is Davis Figueiredo. You said before that there's nobody else in the division. There's somebody that I think the viewers watching, thank you for watching. Please subscribe and tell us what you think of the show and please share. But there's one guy that I believe you should keep your eye on, and that's Manel Cape. Manel, I think I'm saying that Manel Cape.
Where is he ranked? Because I don't think I haven't heard
he's not.
But
He's not ranked. He was supposed to fight multiple times this year. For some reason, his opponents pull out or injuries happen on his side and their side. But he is a former Rising champion. And he is somebody that the UFC are very high on and that they wanted to really boost up and put him in this flyweight division and put him in the rankings and move forward. Unfortunately, again, he just hasn't been able to get a fight. But he is being built up as the next challenger or something that could be a problem. And I think, with his style, with his resume, I think he is someone that you should be looking out for. If not in the near future, in the years to come.
I agree. And now moving forward, where do you see? I mean, obviously, actually, I feel like this is the part we actually really don't have to talk about or spend as much time on because I think we both agree, run this back.
Yes.
I think that with the draw, we know from history, Tyron Woodley versus Stephen Thompson, run it back. When you have those close fights like this, it only makes sense to run it back. That's really it. That's really it. I'm excited. I'm buying that pay-per-view, and I'm excited for when that pay-per-view comes out.
Same. Let me ask you this question because we already know this fight's going to happen again.
For sure.
The biggest thing that I took away from this is where does Cody Garbrandt go from here? Like that's the thing that nobody's talking about. The next day afterwards is where does Cody Garbrandt go from here? Because Cody Garbrandt was supposed to be the next guy, right?
At 125.
At 125, right? And he was supposed to be the guy to fight Davis Figueiredo. After watching this, let me ask you 2 questions. One, do you believe Cody Garbrandt has a chance to get Davis Figueiredo after what we've seen at 125? And then 2, where does Cody Garbrandt go from here? Because he was next in line to fight for the title.
I think Cody is still one fight away, if possible. Well, let's answer the first question. I do think he still presents interesting challenges for Davis and Figueiredo because they both keep their hands low. Now, the issue is one's more likely to knock the other out just because of Davidson Figueiredo has been he can hit you with the strength of God
Right.
at 125. Cody Garbrandt, sorry, he can hit you too. He can hit you. He's still good. He's proven that he can still knock people out. The issue is Cody Garbrandt is he hasn't unfortunately been a healthy fighter because one, he's had COVID and he has all these issues, and two, he just has much more wear and tear on him than Figueiredo does at this point in his career. I think Cody's still a great fighter. That he can still be champ if necessarily, but there's going to be a lot of things he's going to need to do in order to beat Davis and Figueiredo, who doesn't seem unbeatable, but you have to dig deep. You have to bring the kitchen sink. You have to do a lot of things. Now, the interesting thing about Figueiredo's style is that what seems to be a way to get him is to throw combinations.
Mm.
He throws combinations too, though, and that's the issue, right? He's throwing one shot, one, two, here and there. But it's really one shot to stun you, then to really go for the kill. And what we saw with Moreno was that if you could put combinations together on him, that kind of puts him in a place where he starts to just start winging things. But can Cody Garbrandt do what Moreno did? And that's a different thing. Those are two very completely different fighters. I think Cody has some advantages in terms of boxing only, but this is MMA, and there's a lot that can happen. I think Cody can do it. I just don't know if he can do it, right? Theoretically, he can do it. I just don't think it can get done.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. I think with Cody Garbrandt, and I think another thing we got to talk about is just the grappling aspect of it. And Davis Figueiredo will and can grapple if he chooses to. And the thing is, if he chooses to, and I think with Cody Garbrandt at 125, being a little bit more depleted, I think it does make it a little bit harder for Cody Garbrandt to go against Davis. I think Brandon Moreno has a better chance against Davis and Figueiredo than Cody Garbrandt does, just because of A, Brandon Moreno is a 125er, and then B, I think the volume and the output of Brandon Moreno, I think Cody Garbrandt can't match that.
It's hard to say, right? We haven't seen him at 125. To just go down to 125 and then fight for the belt, that's hard. We want to see something before we get it done, right? I think Cody Garbrandt, I think he has some things that he can do technically with boxing that Moreno can't do. But when it comes to putting it all together for what's needed to be done against Figueiredo, Moreno's done it the best so far. So it's hard to see Cody doing something that honestly worked best so far. I don't know. I'm torn because you know how I feel about Cody. I think he's having revitalization in his career, and I'm excited for him. But Figueiredo's a beast, and I honestly don't see that fight going past 3 rounds.
Yeah,
if that happens, I don't see that fight going the distance. I just don't. But who knows? Do we get a healthy Cody Garbrandt? If we get a healthy Cody Garbrandt, Figueiredo could be in trouble. But I don't know if the off chance we want to know what happens after this fight with Figueiredo. Does Figueiredo come back the same? Who knows?
Yeah. And Cody Garbrandt, I guess if he's not next in line for the flyweight title, what do you do with him?
Go back up to bantamweight, dude. If the UFC says, hey, like we want you to fight one fight before we give you the belt, think about it. If you don't want to do that one fight, go back to 125. But if you've already depleted your body at this point, you might as well just fight. I don't know. He's in a weird position where it's like, I honestly could see him getting the winner of the Figueiredo Moreno too, because there is no, in my opinion, there really is no clear cut person to fight for the belt.
Or if Brandon Moreno's injury is worse than we think, or if for some reason that fight doesn't come together next, I guess you could give him next in line. I just wonder what people will think with Cody Garbrandt getting next in line before Brandon Moreno gets his rematch.
I don't think that's not fair. That wouldn't be fair. Yeah. That wouldn't be fair in my opinion. But Moreno's been denied a belt this long. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But let's hit on this. I also want to hit on this with Kevin Holland beating Jacare Souza. Flat Policy says, I'm driving now. I appreciate you listening and listen to us even while you're driving. Please be safe.
Please be safe.
We're about to have just Kevin Holland right now. So, Kevin Holland, fight of the year?
Tyriece, you called me. And we said words that we obviously can't say on your show right now. But the issue is we both said the same thing at the same time. So that's how you know we were on the same page one.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Holland has had one of the most productive years in UFC and during the COVID, during the UFC thing. I mean, what, this is his fourth or fifth? This is his fifth win.
Fifth.
This is fifth win
Mm.
in a few months. This guy is talented. Say what
And
you want. Say he talks too much. Say he doesn't really fit the description as a person you think could be champion. Say what you want. What he did to Jacare last night is not something that anyone does to Jacare easily.
yeah, he's really coming to his own now. He started this run in May, and now we're in December, and he's already had 5 fights, and he's talking about having another fight or wants to have another fight next week. That I feel like every single year in the UFC, you go back as far as when Cowboy had his run that year before getting the title shot. Like, there's always this one guy or one of these fighters that has this type of run where they just run the gauntlet, and like they're fighting every single week. They're fighting whoever they get in front of them. They're fighting 4 or 5 times or 3 or 4 times a year, and they're putting on great performances to where we're
Every
like,
single
okay,
time.
this guy is on the rise. Jorge Masvidal last year. Jorge Masvidal had one of the best runs of his career. Kevin Holland's in that mode right now as well, where we're talking about Kevin Holland as in being a contender in the middleweight division. Do you think Kevin Holland is? Let's start with it. Do you think Kevin Holland is on the path of being a champion in the middleweight division?
Well, I'll say this. He's definitely a contender.
Okay.
When it comes to champions, now we have to assess who he fights next. Because we could either go, there's 3 routes you can go. You can go the quick route, the way Paulo Costa got up there, right? Paulo Costa destroys 2 guys, Paulo Costa beats 2 guys, right? Who did he beat? He beat Uriah Hall, who was still was touted as like a top name. Beats Uriah Hall, then goes on to face, beats Johnny Hendricks, then beats Uriah Hall, then goes on to face Yoel Romero, correct?
I believe that's how it went, yes.
Yeah, and then fights for the belt. Very quick way to the title belt, but doesn't really fight he fights tough guys. Doesn't fight a diverse group of people, I think. Now you have Martin Vettori, who's arguably going to be he's going to be a title contender very soon, who's arguably fought some of the top guys at middleweight, and he's been fighting for quite a while. Then you have Israel Adesanya, who's also fought a lot of the top guys at middleweight for a while. If Kevin Holland can string along a couple more victories of the top between that top 10 people, he will eventually be the champion. So I agree with, yes, he's on the route to being champion, but it just gets so much harder for him now. Because now once you beat a guy like Jacare, that's a name under your belt. You're looking at a guy who fought for didn't he not fight for, he was so close to fighting for the belt in UFC. I don't think he did.
No, he didn't fight for the belt.
He was always one fight away. Right. He was always one fight away, in my opinion. He was a former champion Strikeforce. Fought Luke Rockhold. Beat a lot of great guys. And have a name like that on your resume means that now people look at you. And so people are going to want the fight. People are going to want to fight him now. And so, yes, he's on the route to being a champion, but it's not anytime soon.
No, and I think we need to pump the brakes again, just like Charles Oliveira. Just pump the brakes a little bit. Yeah. Let's recess a little bit, and let's match. If you're the UFC and if you want to push him in that way, let's match make him in a way we can get him to that spot, right? Because I said before the end of prediction show, I said this is almost a blessing in disguise. Even last week, I said it's a blessing in disguise that he didn't face Jack Hermanson. It is a blessing in disguise that he's facing an older Jacare Souza who likes to grapple, who can strike, but he's still getting comfortable at striking as well. And he is also older; he's 41 years old. Yeah. I think it's a blessing in disguise that he fights Jacare Souza, and then he maybe you can matchmake him with a Darren Till or somebody that's. Well, I'm saying if you're trying to book Kevin Holland to be a contender, you want to face him with someone that has this, that gives him a fair fight, or someone that can, or someone that that on a matchup level match up well against each other. Like a Darren.
I have a fight for him that I think you would like.
Go ahead.
I want him versus Edmund Shabazian.
No,
I want him versus Edmund Shabazian. I do. No. I really do.
Because you can.
I do. I really do want that fight.
But
it shouldn't happen.
With Edmund Lemon Shabazian, you're trying to build him up as a young star as well. Like my brain is just thinking about this. Like, if you're looking at Kevin Holland, I wouldn't put him against a grappler like Jack Hermanson, right?
Jack Hermanson's not going to fight him.
You can. I just wouldn't do it just because trying to build Kevin Holland to be a star. I would put Kevin Holland against a Darren Till, somebody that will strike with him. I would put him against, if Paulo Costa was going to be booked against Rob Whittaker, Paulo Costa probably would have been a good matchup for him. I
don't think Costa would have. I think Costa probably would have taken that fight, but I don't know if he would have really taken that fight because I think for him, if he beat him, it would have been like he's getting revenge against skinny guy. He keeps saying. I think a fight like Kevin Holland versus the winner of Chris Weidman and Uriah Hall could be an interesting fight. Only reason why I don't agree with Darren Till is because I want Darren Till to face Martin Vettori. I have a little bias in that. I would love for that fight to come to fruition, in my opinion.
Right, but again, if you want that fight, I think that fight's also good. I think Martin Vettori versus Darren Till is a good fight. I think Martin Vettori versus somebody like a Kevin Gastelum or a Derek Bronson, like that makes sense. Like I wouldn't give like Martin Vettori versus Darren Till. You can do that, but I think Martin Vettori can also match up well against other opponents as well. You get what I'm saying? Like I don't think Martin Vettori needs to fight Darren Till. I think Kevin Holland needs to fight someone like Darren Till because striking wise, I think they both match up well against each other, and I think that with Kevin Holland, you could set up those bigger fights later on down the road. Like Martin Vettori could beat Kevin Gastelum and be next in line for a title shot. Because
I don't think
the name of Kevin Gastelum.
Aside from moving from the Kevin Holland, because we get back to him, I don't think Vettori is going to fight Kevin Gastelum because they're on the same team. I could be wrong, but
we've seen things like this happen.
We've seen teammates fight each other, but I realistically don't see that happen. We said we called the Holland win. Also, he picked. Flathead Politics says I called the Holland win. Also, I posted my pick in the comments of your last video. He wants to fight next week. Honestly, well, let's finish off of this before we talk about his next fight because that's also a very good point. Like Tyreece is bringing up points, but we also want to get to that call out that he made at the end of his fight. I think for a guy like Kevin Holland, again, he is championship material if you build him well. He's a fighter.
Don't rush it.
I don't think they will. What I will say this though is that now once you have a guy like Jacare on your resume, you want to really now I'm on the map. You were on the map before, but now you're on the map because of the way you finish Jacare. Now you can start saying, hey, I want this fight. And then when I'm done with this fight, I want that fight. And when we're done with that fight, give me the belt. If not happening, get me something that's equivalent. Get me the payday. Like there's things you can argue now, right?
Right.
That's all I want for Kevin Holland. That's all I want. That's all I can say for right now.
We didn't even talk about the knockout. He's on the bottom and he's talking to Jacare Souza, and he says, "I had a dream about this once," and then he proceeds to land a right hook from the bottom as he's getting up. And when I knew immediately he was hurt because you see Jacare Souza let go of the grip on his leg, and then he sits. And then he just proceeds to stand over him and just keep knocking him out like you're in the park and some bullies.
You ever see that video? Fight back.
Exactly.
That's how I was like.
It's just like that.
Honestly, though, I think in the moment it sucks because I feel like that should have been stopped three strikes ago. Yes. But
when he's also, like this, prone to his back,
that too much. But if I'm the ref, also I just gotta be honest with you, seeing some shit like that would be like, I would probably be like, what is all right? No, gotta stop it. A lot went down in those couple. And the funny part was he was talking to him a few seconds before.
Yeah, he said I had a dream about this, and then he proceeds to knock him out and put him to sleep. I think with Kevin Holland, you have something special, and I think he is, one of the most improved fighters of the year. I say, pause the hype train just a little bit, and let's start picking his fights, and let's not go the route of what we're going to transition to. Fighting the next card or fighting just random fights. Let's pick and choose these fights now, and we could try to build him up because he wants to fight Khamzat Chimaev next week. That fight's not gonna happen regardless of the fact. But I don't want him I don't want. And I wish his management comes to him and say, let's Let's figure out what's next. Let's matchmake. Let's figure out what's next for you, and let's not take random fights anymore. We're beyond random fights now.
We're you know how they be like in business. We're a brand.
Yes.
We are a brand now.
Yes.
We are
Yes.
taking fights in our best interest to put us in a position to argue for the championship fight, to argue for more money because
Right.
of what I bring to UFC. This will
Right.
be his second, I think, second bonus, right? This will be. Didn't he get a bonus last night?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, this will be his second bonus. So he's made 100. He's made out of 5 fights. He's gotten 2 bonuses now, $100,000. This, like you don't get that with everybody, right? It's very rare that you can get people to pull off one UFC. Sorry, what are you saying?
This is his third bonus of the year. He got one for
Third
for
bonus. He has
the
three.
Buckley fight, his last fight, and now this fight.
That's right. This guy's a talent, and when you look at the vignette for him, you see that he took on Thiago Santos late notice and
Right.
survived.
Right.
Right, survived and was actually doing damage. So again, I agree with you. I personally understand why people like him a lot. I get it. What I say now is now we need to focus on what gets me to the title and what gets me more money.
Right.
And
also
there's no reason to take fights that really don't give you anything.
Right. And also like I said before we even get down this path, it's just we've seen runs like this. We've seen Donald Cerrone have run like this. We've seen Jorge Masvidal have runs like this, to where like they have 1 year having the best year of their career, and then you get done. Let's slow the pace down and let's work towards something. Let's not just put him in this position where he has the best year of his career, and then he's fighting somebody like a Jack Hermanson or a Marvin Vettori next, and you're seeing maybe flaws that he had, like because he didn't get taken down by Jacare Souza. Against somebody like Jack Hermanson, against somebody like Marvin Vettori, who are a lot younger, or who maybe are a little bit more in their prime than Jacare Souza, you may see a little more difficulty. Let's pick and choose which fight makes sense for Kevin Holland moving forward that could put him in positions.
Yeah. What do you think is next for Jacare? Do you think retirement is kind of the talk now, or do you still think we should be continuing to fight?
Well, this is another transition which we can get into. JDS losing to Cyril Gaines. Cyril Gaines, somebody that I'm very high on in the heavyweight division. And he's on his way to being a contender in the division. I think he'll be one very, very soon. JDS, Jacare, there was somebody else on this card, I believe. JDS, Jacare, I believe there was Cub Swanson won, which is really good. Cub Swanson is really, really good.
Knocked out Daniel Pineda. I thought that was really impressive, KO.
It's really, really good because again, Cub Swanson was somebody that I was worried about too, but Jacare, Junior Dos Santos, hopefully not no time in the future, but even Tony Ferguson is not excluded from this. Like,
no,
the UFC are looking to cut costs, and the UFC are looking to use the Contender Series and use Tough to bring in new talent
for cheaper.
When you get somebody like JDS, who has, I'm going to imagine he's made a lot of money in the UFC over the years, especially being a former champion, being who JDS is. Jacare Souza, who's 41. Tony Ferguson's going to be 37. Like these guys are getting older, and if I'm looking at how the UFC is operating now, bringing in talent from Ryzen, bringing in talent from the Contender Series, bringing in talent from these other promotions, and they're not as worried about getting talent that are like, what is the word? They're not worried about box office draws. They're worried about putting on good fights. I would be worried if I'm JDS, Jacare, or Tony Ferguson, where my name value may not have the same because they're not they don't need to pay, or they don't need to worry about a pay-per-view buys anymore.
No.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to really see, because again, UFC is going through that. It's the evolution of the UFC at this moment, right? You're starting to realize some people who are big names, everyone gets old. That's just it. People aren't going to be fighting forever. And then with fighters like that, with getting in new fighters, and then the 60 fighters they're actually going to cut, you're going to see some big differences. They're putting up great matchups for younger fighters, and they're getting the crowd still in, to this day. So at the end of the day, if UFC realizes that they can still put on these cards, still gain that money and revenue, and not if the big names aren't winning and people are losing, they're gonna cut it. They're gonna cut those people at the
They're
end
not.
of the day.
They're not in negotiating power either, right? Because
No, they don't
if
have to
you're
negotiate power.
if you're a Jacare or you're a JDS and you're on a losing streak or you seem like your performance is on decline, now other organizations,
Are also less likely to take you as well.
exactly, and it makes the UFC position even better because like they don't have to worry about paying you. They can cut you and they can get the next 21-year-old, 23-year-old guy that may still need work to be done, like a Chase Hooper, but they have a fighter and they have somebody that can entertain and somebody that can
At the end of
put
the
on a
day,
show.
all they need is fighters.
Yes.
Regardless of name, at the end of the day, and that's what they're starting to realize. It's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. We have to see how it really transitions out because, again, at the end of the day, people get old. People are not gonna fight forever. So this is a natural progression of things. But I think UFC is starting to capitalize on that now, like you said before, especially with the Contender Series and things like that. So I'm interested to see what going forward. For me, I think Jacare takes a little time off. Take some time off, really evaluate, see how many fights are left on that contract, maybe finish out the contract, then retire, or one more fight and call it a day. One fight I'd be interested in seeing before he leaves is that I would like to see him run it back with Weidman. Even though he
Yeah,
beat Weidman, I wouldn't mind seeing that fight.
I wouldn't mind
Let's
seeing
see how
that
it
fight either.
interests me.
Um,
Or if Rockhold wanted to come back to the Jacare fight, that'd be an interesting fight.
or if there's guys like Brandon Allen. I want to see Jacare go against. There's other fighters that I want to see Jacare go against. Even Jacare
Yeah.
at light heavyweight. I thought Jacare at light heavyweight wasn't bad. I thought he was actually really good. I thought he was.
Yeah.
I thought he was better than Chris Weidman and Luke Rockhold. I thought he held his own against at light heavyweight. So I would be
Out of all three of them,
yeah,
he had the best performance at light heavyweight, in my opinion. He
yeah,
had the best. He
and
didn't even get
also
knocked out.
and also maybe again with these other organizations now being wary of all the talent like Bellator now. Bellator's investing in getting younger talent as well, so that makes it even harder. But if Bellator is interested, maybe you do Jacare going to Bellator or Jacare goes to the other promotions. Like if the market, like I think viewers that are watching us, please thank for watching, but please be aware of what's going on behind the scenes, where it seems like a lot of these promotions are moving away from these older fighters. Like Bellator used to be the place where you could if you're done with the UFC, maybe you get a good contract with Bellator. Bellator's moving away from them now. Bellator's investing in new up and coming talent as well. So like with the UFC, starting to get wary of older talent, Bellator getting wary of older talent. Where do these talent go?
That's the issue.
Like
That's what we have to
the
see.
thing that we're not talking about.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be interesting to see where Jacare goes from here, and JDS and Tony Ferguson even. But Kevin Holland, let's pick and choose who he's fighting next. Let's not take any random fights, and let's try to build a star.
For sure.
Yes.
For sure.
Elijah, any other fights on this card that you wanted to hit on?
Tyriece. I mean, there was a fight, Renato Moicano
Yes.
versus Andre Fiziev.
I think it's Rafael Fiziev.
Rafael, sorry, I keep calling him something. I keep messing up his name. It's the first time. Sorry, guys. That fight to me was interesting because Renato Moicano was the next biggest thing at featherweight. Doesn't do too well. Gets submitted by Brian Ortega. Gets knocked out by Chen Sung Young. Goes up, has good success at lightweight for the first introduction fight, but then this fight gets slept. Rafael Fiziev is going to be a problem for a majority of the people in this division. This man can strike. This man's striking is diverse.
Mm-hmm.
He trains out of Tiger Muay Thai, which is a fight camp we know two UFC champions are from. And what's it called? Valentina Shevchenko and Peter Yan.
Yep.
They train out of there exclusively, so that's one. That fight was, great technique, beautiful connection. That was one of my fights. I'll let you go because there's two more fights I want to talk about. But for you, I definitely want to see you.
No, that was my one too. I was really interested. I'm like his last fight impressed me. This fight as well impressed me even more. I want to see, like, if we're matchmaking and predicting like fights for him at lightweight, I would love to see him fight a what's his name? The guy that lost
Greg.
to Donald Cerrone. Um, but
Oh, Alexander Hernandez.
Alexander Hernandez. Give me that fight. Give me Alexander Hernandez versus Rafael Fiziev next. I think that will be a good test for both fighters, and I think for Rafael Fiziev, I think that moves him one step closer to being a top 15 contender.
I would, if he comes back, I'd be interested in seeing a matchup with Gregor Gillespie. The true striker versus wrestling, I would love to see how he fares. Because if he gets past Gregor Gillespie's wrestling, which is Olympic caliber,
Mm-hmm.
no one. I don't think there's too many people who's going to take him down. I truly cannot think of anyone who could really take him down, unless they physically dominated him, like after battering him, which wouldn't happen because his striking's so damn elite.
Right.
Another fight, actually, I want to bring up was Gavin Tucker versus Billy Quarantillo. Gavin Tucker is a sleeper. I'm telling you now. Gavin Tucker can strike. Gavin Tucker has great. Gavin Tucker has great wrestling defense, great jujitsu. I mean, this guy is gonna be a guy. He's gonna be a guy at 145. I'm telling you, I thought Billy Quarantillo was my guy to watch, but then I was like, Gavin Tucker is piecing him up.
And
That
Billy
third
still
round,
looks to me. Billy Q is still to
Billy
me.
Quarantillo, he's good. He's great. He's a mean motherfucker, right?
Right.
But Gavin Tucker had his number. Gavin Tucker had his number. And you saw that. So those are two fights. Oh, sorry, in the last fight, Mackenzie Dern dropped back down to strawweight and had a really good, impressive performance. You saw evolutions in her striking. And I'm interested to see how she fares back down to strawweight.
Yeah, and since we're already here, Tisha Torres won her fight as well. Tisha Torres seems like she fought Sam Hughes on short notice. And I thought she did really well, and I'm interested to see what Tisha Torres goes from here. And Chase Hooper.
Yeah.
Again, these young fighters, man, where it seems like maybe fighting their way up a little bit more, or getting more experience or getting more time, could benefit them. He gets a heel hook done in late in the third round. Again, Chase Hooper is again one of those things where it's like Sage Northcutt, or it's like Paige Van Zandt, or it's like what was the other guy that we talked about that fought CM Punk? That fought CM Punk. Mickey Gall, where it's like, I just wonder what the future is going to be for them, because it does get a little harder for them. And again, with it's different times where before maybe you can make an argument in the early 2000s, or or late 2000s, that maybe there's still specialists out there where it's maybe if you're good at this, you may be able to get away with that. Yeah. Now when everybody's so well-rounded, or trying to be more well-rounded,
it's not the case. You can't be a specialist. Being a specialist means that you're great, but you're never going to really break past those barriers you need to.
Right, and I'm just worried for him. I think he's great. I think he's a great person. I think I'm no person, but I think he's a great person. I think he has a great future. It's just I just wondered if maybe a year working there, or just more time to develop here, or just matchmaking certain fights, because it does get harder. Like, it could do a lot more benefits, because I think he's someone that you can invest in as a potential star. And it just sucks that he is being he's making money. He's probably doing well with his family. He's probably being able to, like that. I can never knock anybody, and I'm not knocking Chase Hooper for getting a contract and fighting the UFC.
Being a professional UFC fighter at the top.
Yeah, I'm not knocking Chase Hooper or Sage Northcutt or anybody at all. It's just circumstances I wish were a little bit better, or a little bit more beneficial for him, where he has all the tools and he's ready to go at the jump and not having to learn on the fly.
It seems, I think with MMA is one of the sports where you learn from your fights, right? In any sport, you learn from playing. The issue with him is that the experience that he gets as he goes up the ladder fighting guys, he's going to face people who are monsters. Right. And he's going to face people who are just that much better than him. Now, he rose to the occasion in this Peter Barrett fight, but until the third round, he wasn't winning. Right. In my opinion, he wasn't winning. It seemed like he was just throwing anything he could to just kind of get him off, try to get the takedown. And I'm happy he's getting these wins. I'm happy to do that. But there's going to come a moment, and I hope it doesn't, but this is the trend. There's going to come a moment when he fights an absolute beast of a person who may not even be ranked, who may just be a newcomer, and it's not going to be pretty.
I mean,
And
remember the Alex Caceres fight where Alex Caceres just absolutely
he wasn't
had
able to
his
do
way
anything
with
to
him.
Alex Caceres. He
Yeah,
wasn't. Yeah, Alex Caceres. To me, Alex Caceres treated like that was a sparring match. Alex Caceres, if he wanted to finish that, he probably could have, but he played it safe, right? You want to play it safe with guys like that, but
yeah,
also it's gonna come a time when you got a guy who can maybe strike and hit you with one punch, but it's just.
and
I mean,
that featherweight division is a problem
it's
too.
just
So
they're just too good. So I
yeah,
really would like to see him. I like this path. Like he's not taking a lot of fights a year. I like that
yes,
he's taking time to grow and learn. But there come a time like Khabib. Like there's a gap in the amount of wrestling that Khabib has versus most people. You're not going to be able to come up with you're not going to be able to just jump that gap. It's not going to happen in the time you fight him. But I wonder how he adapts. He's adapting with jiu-jitsu, but jiu-jitsu is not going to be enough at a certain point.
right, right.
Jiu-jitsu is
So
just not going to be enough because you get a guy who can decent. You get a wrestler in there with him, like a solid wrestler who can strike, heavy
right,
hands. That fight doesn't end well,
right.
in my opinion. I could be proven wrong. I would love to be proven wrong. I want this kid to be good, do better, but it is what it is. Overall, Tyreese, as we come to the end, we are now an hour and 15 minutes in, almost
Yeah,
going on hour
it's a
16.
long shot. I think this is also our second to last UFC card of the year,
Yeah,
our main
yes, it
card of the
is,
year.
sir.
So next week is
What
gonna be our last card.
what do you give this card as a rating?
Other than that downer we just talked about with Chase Hooper, again, I hope Chase Hooper. It does pain me to see
There's, before
certain
we
things.
even continue, but
Yeah.
there's no way, shape, or form are we discrediting his talent as a
No,
UFC
no, no,
fighter.
no, 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 no. We're not talking about
We're
Chase
trying
Hooper.
to see a trend. We just see a
Right,
trend when it comes to younger fighters being pushed to the success and the limelight, but
right,
having to overcome that there actually is experiencing gaps when it gets to
right.
the higher levels of MMA.
Yeah,
But
that's what it is. It's honestly, it's just I just want him to be able to have a fair advantage. A
yeah,
fair advantage. If we're talking about this card itself, I think it's one of the best cards of the year.
agreed.
I think there's a debate that there like it supersedes any fight card in the UFC this entire year. And for that reason, it gets an A+.
I wasn't gonna give it A+. I was gonna give it an A, but why not?
From
I'm gonna
top
stick
to
with A.
bottom, from top to
It was
bottom,
great. It was great. It
it
was
was great.
great.
There wasn't a moment where I felt like it dragged or that it like the main event over delivered. The co-main event was a great showing out party for Charles Oliveira. Kevin Holland had his moment. Chase Hooper, I think we talked about this now a minute ago. He had a great submission win.
With
Uh,
heel hook.
heel hook. Fazeev, the knockout over Hanato Moicano, like the Mackenzie Dern performance. Like everybody on this card delivered, and even the people that lost,
Yeah.
even delivered, and they did what they could do, and they
Jandaroba,
had a good
that second
performance.
round.
Jandaroba, yes, yes,
Jandaroba, that second round. Don't count her
yes,
out.
yes. This card to me is an A+. Flat Politics, I believe he said it was a B+. I
It's
wonder
an
if he
A. It's
changed
a
his
solid
mind
A
a
for
little
me.
bit. To me, it is an
We'll
A
see.
plus all the way. Best fighter
Yeah.
card of the year, and what a way to end 2020 and for the UFC, a year where a lot of doubts, a lot of questioning of how things are going to move forward. They move forward, some hiccups along the way, some questionable
Yeah.
decisions, but they end the year pay-per-view wise with a absolutely great card.
Agreed. I was happy for this card. I was from top to bottom watching every fight. I was like, wow, this is good.
Yes. So, and it's the real card. It's supposed to be Sterling versus Jan, and before that, it's supposed to be Usman versus
Burn.
Burns, and it
Yeah.
just turned into a phenomenal card. So,
Yeah.
hats off to the UFC. Hats off to everybody on this card that winner or losers that went out there, performed, and worked to their best ability. This is an A+ card for me.
Agreed. It's an A. It's an A card.
Yes. So, this is the second to last fight for the UFC this year. Like we said, next week is going to be the very last card, and we're going to discuss Stephen Thompson versus Jeff Neal and see if Jeff Neal can move over the hump and become that contender in the welterweight division.
Agreed.
So, for the viewers watching, we appreciate you. We love you. Thank you for spending time with us. An
Thank you so
hour,
much.
an hour and 19 minutes. Who would have thought it will be this long? But
We
we love
never
talking
do.
about fights.
Yes, sir.
So not gonna stay any longer. Signing off. My name is Tyriece Simon.
Elijah Jones.
This has been MMA Renegade episode 36. We will see you guys next week, next Sunday at 10:30 Eastern.